Oh, man, how y'all all? Welcome, Moon Griffon Show. Friday Eve already, folks. That's right. You know, Randy, if you like everybody likes New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve, so I figured everybody liked Friday Eve. So we are Friday Eve. Even you, Brandon. Even a man who loves Friday like you do got to like Friday Eve.
I like Friday Eve a lot. it is kind of a tease, but I still like it.
Yeah, usually on Friday Eve is when we have our best-looking guests, but we're going around at this time. We're going to not go with our best-looking guests. We're going with Brett Geymann. Brett, how you doing, brother?
I'm sorry. What?
No,
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say at this point.
I know what you're going to say is, why am I doing this again?
Yeah.
When I could be working and making a living, why in the world am I messing with this guy? But anyway, Brett, always a pleasure, man. All right, Brett, I'm last night kind of watching the scorecard as you were and watching things blow up right there in front of us. Now, people may say, I can't believe he's laughing at that. Well, it's a shame it's gotten down to this. But the fact of the matter is what we watched yesterday, it is what it is. I mean, it's just not going anywhere at this point.
It doesn't look good, Moon. Well, I say it actually does look good. It's depending on which side you're on, but it doesn't look good for anything moving forward. Some of the Republicans felt that they could support a temporary quarter-cent sales tax down from the 1 cent that we currently have. But in order for them to do that, they had to get some reform. The Speaker had a bill dealing with the expenditure limit and a formula attached to it that would curtail spending in the future. It was really, in my opinion, a very, very significant piece of legislation that I think is really important for our state. That bill failed. So right out of the gate, the Democrats, most of them, if not all of them, did not support the reform measure. And as the night moved on, there was not enough votes for even the quarter-cent temporary tax, yet alone anything else. So it is, I don't see how that they come together with any kind of majority on anything at this point.
I'm just going to throw this at you. You're not down there. You're not speaking for anybody. You're speaking for Brett Geymann, who is now a citizen, used to be in the legislature. What would be wrong with them saying, you know what, we're going home? I mean, you can always call a special session after. We can always find out what the revenue estimating conference is going to come up with. I don't see any problem with doing that. I think because you got to remember now, you were in the legislature for 12 years. I'm sure you went through special sessions. This is a lack of leadership, in my opinion, from the governor. You mean to tell me you're going to throw together a special session? You don't have an idea what direction you're going in. And the reason why I say that is the Black Caucus, who really blew this up yesterday, they in one direction. The Republicans seem to be mostly in another direction. I don't know where the governor is. Why would he call a special session if he doesn't have any deals made on what to do?
Moon, I can't answer that, and I'm not sure anyone else can. But to back up to your previous comment, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, there's nothing wrong with going home because you have $300 to $400 million of increased revenue already from the federal tax deduction or federal tax rate change.
Correct.
And that affects our exemptions at the state level, and so you've generated some revenue from that. You have oil prices, which are up a little bit higher than they have forecasted. You have an economy that in some areas is trying to increase. And anyway, the point is you have some increased revenue coming toward that $994 million so-called shortfall anyway if you do nothing. So you can go into regular session, and then you can now have a revenue estimating forecast of a more current number and know exactly what you need. And you could come back in June for a 2-week special session and deal with any gap that you feel like you had to close if you had one. So the end of the world is not coming. The sky's not falling if they go home. The question is what you said. Why are they there now, and why would they call this session if they didn't think they had some kind of an agreement to do something?
But think about it, because I know you've been down there, and I think you went through some special sessions. Normally, the governor calls the special session. I don't remember any governor calling a special session and not something coming out of it. And so that tells me we called a special session hoping for something to come out of it, but not knowing that something would come out of it.
I think they thought that the pressure from higher education, healthcare, and those agencies that always put pressure on the legislature to increase revenue would be high enough that something would happen. And the point is that some of the Republicans, a small majority of them, a little over a majority of them, I think 33 of them last night, voted for a temporary sales tax of a quarter cent.
Mm-hmm.
That was something that they were willing, that group of Republicans was willing to do in exchange for some reform measures.
Sure.
But the 33 is not close to 70, Moon.
Nope, not even
close
at all.
You know, the Democrats went to the mic last night, most of them, I can't say all of them, but the overwhelming majority of them, and their issue is they want more revenue. They don't want just what they're being offered right now. They want more. And so,
Brad, I'm trying to understand something.
That seems to be the hang-up.
I saw the same thing you did, and they keep hollering for $900 million more in taxes when you and I both know that $300 to $400 million, because we don't know what the taxes on corporations are going to do, $300 plus million. They've already recognized $303 million to come back from the federal government that me and you are paying in income taxes. They already got that. That takes the $994 to $600 in 2 seconds. But they keep hollering. Last night they got up there, we want $990-something million. The Black Caucus, we want $994 million. I mean, they're not being realistic at all. They didn't vote for the sales tax yesterday, which, by the way, I wouldn't have voted for it either. But what I'm saying is they didn't vote for anything. They're not trying to fix anything. If you look at the press and you read the press clippings, it's all about the House Republicans are screwing this up. But the bottom line is, no. Black Caucus blew this thing up yesterday for the most part. And that means the governor wasn't in control of nothing, if you ask me.
I agree with you 100%, Moon. I think the Republican, you and I could sit here and debate whether they should or shouldn't have even supported the quarter cent, but some of them did. So the Republicans put something out on the table and said, we're willing to go here, but we need this in exchange. They need some reform measures. They need some other issues to be passed, Medicaid work requirements, some of those things that they've been trying to get done. In exchange for that, we're willing to go a quarter cent temporary. And that's just not good enough for them. And you're right. If you do the math, if you add the federal $305 million plus the $400 and some change that was going to pass last night, you're almost at the $900 million anyway.
Yeah.
So it's just really puzzling to watch this and try to understand why the other side, who wants revenue, wouldn't go along with this last night. Now, I don't know. I can't imagine what they get out of there now at this point. I don't see anything positive as far as generating any revenue even coming out of there.
And Brad, I don't want to put you too much on the spot. Why would Republicans negotiate anything with the Black Caucus? All you hear will come out of their mouth is racism, hate, they don't love us, they hate the poor, they hate the children. I wouldn't even negotiate with people like that. And the reason I say it has nothing to do with race. It's everything to do with what they say and what they say about Republicans.
I think they're miles apart in philosophy. I think we all understand that.
Sure.
Republicans, whether you're a moderate Republican or a conservative Republican, you're miles apart from the philosophy of the Black Caucus. It's a different constituency, a different mindset, and all of that. I think, and again, Moon, just for full disclosure, I probably would not have voted for the measure last night if I'd have been there, but that's beside the point. Many of my former colleagues felt like they could do that in order to try to get something positive done in this session and get something, some sort of a solution on the table. The caucus, and I'm like you. I'm asking the question now: why even negotiate with them anymore? Because we are so far apart. Even those who feel like they're willing to go a quarter cent, which is really outside of the normal philosophy of a Republican, they're still miles apart from where the Black Caucus is.
Well, the governor has stated that he would support a half-cent sales tax. But the Black Caucus doesn't want anything. They want it all on income taxes. They want it on everybody that works, which doesn't make any sense to me.
They want no sales tax because they feel like it adversely affects their constituency. They want to put the tax on the middle class, who is also going to pay the sales tax. And then in additional, they want to compress the income brackets where if you're a couple working and you make $50,000 combined, you're now going to be in a 6% tax bracket.
Yeah, think about the
rich, Moon, are already paying that. They're not even, let's go get the rich. The rich are already paying 6%.
Well,
they're going after the hard-working middle class, who is also going to have to pay the increased sales tax. It's unbelievable.
No, I read where they wanted the people making $30,000 to $50,000 a year. Not only will you pay a little extra in sales taxes, they want your income taxes too. I mean, that group. That's a Looney Tune group when it comes to reality and reality of how money works and all that. They don't care how money works. And that's what bothers me. Where's the governor's leadership with the Black Caucus? Where's the governor's leadership at all in any of this? They trying to let him get totally away from the problem. And this is me now. This is not you, Brett. He has become the problem because if I'm calling a special session, I got something lined up to move forward. At this point, I wish the Republicans, I'm talking to Lance Harris and Taylor Bauer, and say, hey, guys, we're going home. We'll see y'all after the session. We'll see y'all after the regular session. And then people say, well, people going to get their feelings hurt. Somebody going to get mad. Man, we way beyond that. If somebody gets mad, gets their feelings hurt, they ought to resign and go home. That's what they ought to do. They ought to quit and go home because nobody said this was going to be easy. We set ourselves up for this fall. We won't make this state a friendly business state. And by the way, Brett, because you probably haven't seen this yet, the hold up just a second. Wall Street Journal, all right, wallstreet.com special report just came out with the best and worst states for business. As you know, we came out with the worst state. And all these things that never change led us down to that. Well, now guess who they got the 50th best state? Louisiana. 50th best state to do business. And here we are talking about raising taxes. Elliot Stonecipher, another great piece on how we got people leaving and we're trying to raise taxes on the people that are here. Okay, can you hold on one more segment?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get your take on that when we get back. 844-766-6607. Hickson has that hotline. We'll be right back.
Well, and that's the problem. I mean, you can't, it's that bell curve. You get to the top of the curve and you keep putting taxes on people, and all of a sudden you get a diminishing return. I don't know if they taught you that at whatever that school was you went to, but they teach that at McNeese. And so there's only a certain amount that you can do to the economy in taxation before things begin to fall apart and people leave and lose their jobs, et cetera. And we know about the oil field and how things have been affected in a negative way. But yet the other side comes to the mic last night and says, this is not enough revenue. We need more revenue, more revenue, more revenue. Not one time did I hear any of them mention in their conversation, as they mentioned higher ed, healthcare, folks with disabilities, and all these important things that everybody in there cares about and everybody listening to your show cares about. But not one time do they mention the taxpayer and the effect that it has on them if they continue to raise taxes because they can't get their spending under control. And one last thing I want to mention before I forget and run out of time, they also talk about the bond rating, where you can't do a temporary sales tax because it negatively affects the bond rating and costs us more money to borrow, money for our capital outlay. You know what else would help our bond rating? Not necessarily increasing taxes permanently, but what if you cut spending?
Yep.
What if you showed the people who rate your state financially that we're not going to continue to spend more money than we generate? We're not going to outpace the economy in spending. Your bond rating would go out the roof.
Well, what happens is if you balance your budget honestly, that's got to be the bond people have to go, wow, Louisiana's getting their act together. Look what they're doing.
Exactly.
Whether it's revenue, the revenue side is killing us. I'm watching this from Bell Edwin to Bell Edwards. We've always raised revenue, but we've changed nothing the state government's done in the last 25 or 30 years. Absolutely nothing.
That is a very good point. And it doesn't matter how much, my argument always was and still is today, it doesn't matter how much revenue you raise, we're going to continue to spend more than we have at the pace that we're growing now. And you have to fix that. Taylor Barra's expenditure limit bill was a piece of that puzzle. It did not pass. And I'm not promoting Scott Walker in the state of Wisconsin, but I do want to say other states have taken on a deficit situation and outgrown it into the point that they have now a surplus. And they've done that in Wisconsin. He started with an $8 billion deficit when he became governor. He's leaving now with I think it's a $2 or $3 billion surplus.
Yeah, but he didn't try to raise taxes every second like Bell Edwards and the Democrats are doing. My
point, exactly. So it can be done without taxing people to death, and it's just it amazes me that the conversation last night from the other side, it was all about revenue, never considering the effect on the economy and the taxpayer.
Don't you think the left in our state, along with most of the media, not all, but most of the media, that's all they've been shoving down our throats is we don't have enough money. That's all they shove down our throats is we don't have enough money. By the way, on one of the things yesterday, I know you saw the best and worst states. We were still 47th or 48th in health care. That's with the expansion of Medicaid, gigantic expansion of Medicaid. And let's be honest on that too, Brent. Brett, and I know you can talk about this. People don't realize how much Medicaid is costing us now with the giant expansion, which is eating up money for health care. I mean, eating up money for roads and eating up money for education and things they claim we need money for.
No question. And, Moon, the danger of the Medicaid expansion is what happens in the future when the federal government decides to not give that lucrative match rate. The carrot they waved in front of us was, hey, if you'll expand your Medicaid, increase your level of people eligible for Medicaid to 130% or whatever that number was, we'll give you 90%, and you only have to put in 10. The normal rate is 60-40. So that was hey, let's go do that. It'll generate a lot of new money for us. Well, the problem is in the next 3 to 5 years, the federal government is going to go back to the normal rate. And we're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 million to $1 billion short on being able to fund that.
Yeah.
Then what are you going to do, man?
Oh, they're going to come back to you, and they're going to come back to us and blame House Republicans for being too conservative.
Of course they will. Once you start a program, you can't ever undo it. So you're not going to be able to, just kick everybody off, as they like to say. So it's these things. Nobody considers the long-term impact of these decisions when they do that.
Yeah. What about should they pretty much shut it down and go home, and then we worry about this later? I'm being honest with you, because at this point it's pretty bad.
At this point, Moon, I think even my former colleagues and friends who have worked tirelessly, like Lance Harris and Taylor Balra and others, to try to make something work, whether you and I agree with all what they did or not. But the point, they put the effort in. It appears to me there's no willingness from the other side to do anything other than just raise $1 billion worth of money. So, yes, go home, come back in the regular session. You got 3 months to work on ideas for the special session in June if you need it. Go home.
I pity the Republicans, including Harris and Barra, if they go cut a deal to raise income taxes. I really do. I mean, they're making a major mistake.
Moon, I can't see them doing that, but I agree with you if they do.
All right. Brett Geymann, always a pleasure. Thanks, Brett.
Thank you, Mooney. Y'all have a great day.
All right. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. We got it all, folks. Don't go nowhere. Bernie Pinsonat at 10:06, too. We'll be right back. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline. If you'd like to be part of the program, always Hickson has it hotline. All right, waiting for Bernie Pinsonat to call in. Bernie's running late, so we can talk bad about him until he calls in, right, Brandon? Brandon's going, yep. All right, Bernie, you sat back and watched the problems. And by the way, yesterday, it came out we were the worst state of the worst and best states in the country. And it listed all the problems we have that we've been having for 30, 40 years. Today, the Wall Street Journal says it's the worst business climate to do business. No state is worse than Louisiana. And it talked about all the things me and you have talked about. And we don't do anything about the business climate, but we're worried about raising taxes on people. So what did you see last night? What do you think's happening? What should happen?
Well, the backdrop, I guess in the media, I don't think the media is doing a good job of reporting really what's happening. You have the governor his base is primarily the base of the Democratic Party in Louisiana is now black, and they wanted, for some reason, they're of the opinion that the penny sales tax fell more heavily on their voters. I guess you could say that, but it's food and drugs are exempt, and everybody pays sales tax. It's kind of one of the fairest. Now they're content. Now, if you talk to some people who are pro-government or think that people don't pay enough taxes, they'll look, we need to pay more income taxes. We do. They'll say that, but you have to look at the income tax and how it works and who pays it. But, most people in Louisiana, by the way, don't want to pay taxes because they don't think they're getting their money's worth. Sure. It's not about paying taxes. It's about, am I really getting a better Louisiana? The last poll I did showed Louisiana wasn't moving, in the right direction. There's the economy of Louisiana hasn't been growing. We're talking about raising 17-cent gasoline tax, and that's going to probably come up this fall. Well, how does that impact somebody in Mamou or Bridge or any place in North Louisiana, those people need jobs. A highway's not going to make their life better, and you're pushing a 17-cent gasoline tax on top of that. I mean, if you can justify Baton Rouge, get the Baton Rouge area to pay for a tax. But income tax, same thing. So the Wall Street Journal and all these publications are confirming what Louisianians who live here know. They don't think the money they're giving state government is doing anything for them. So, yeah, the media can rail all they want about Republicans don't want to pass taxes because their voters don't think the taxes they're paying are getting the services they deserve. So that's your first problem.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Bernie Pinsonat, my special guest. Yeah, Bernie, it's I just wish they'd take the session and go home at this point. I mean, you got no leadership from the governor. You've been around this for longer than I have and watched it. I've always thought when a special session was called because, and the governor usually calls them. I'm not saying he's got to call them always, but he usually calls them. They usually put the agenda very small, and then they go pass or not pass things, but normally they pass things. In this case, Governor Edwards calls a special session. The Republicans have been pretty set on what they weren't going to give up, at least we hope so. But yet on their side, we don't know what they want, and at the last second, after bills have passed committees, the Black Caucus comes up and says, no, we don't want that. We want to compress the brackets. So where's the leadership from the governor's office? I mean, there's no leadership from the governor's office. He's made it worse by calling this special session at this point.
Well, there are several problems with it. Number one, you're asking Republicans to you're including an income tax, and it doesn't. You really don't need to be a political genius to figure out that. Look, any survey I've ever done, passing an income tax in Louisiana is next to impossible. So put that on the agenda, so that endangers your session. I mean, that's a given. The media can blame the Republicans all they want, but 92% of Republicans in Louisiana don't want to pay more income tax. And by the way, if the number was 72% of all voters were opposed to an income tax. So that means that white Democrats, black Democrats, independents. That means that 72% of all voters, that includes white Democrats and black Democrats, are opposed to an income tax. Now, they can say, oh, we need that income tax, but no, the problem is the public continues to say we have a spending problem, not a revenue problem. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong, but that's what the public says, and they're the ones that the legislators react to back home. And there's nobody back home saying that we need to pass more taxes. They just don't buy it. They don't believe it. The roads, they don't think a better road is going to bring Google to Louisiana, which it didn't. What will bring businesses to Louisiana is a better business climate. Unless you make business climate the number one priority, Moon, and you do something about the trial lawyers and the insurance rates are now going up. Everything is going up in Louisiana, and it's not a business-friendly state, and it never has been. And until the legislature and the governor face it in reality, you can't raise you only can raise so much taxes from poor people, and we're a very poor state.
By the way, Bernie, the Wall Street Journal.com places at 50 in the business climate. It's something I've been preaching for years, but I'm starting to get on it more and more. We've tried raising revenue. We've tried raising taxes. We've tried expanding government. We expand programs. We expand Medicaid. We expand the number of universities. We expand the community colleges. Always expand over the last 25 years. And the only thing we don't have, the results are no different. We still got an out-migration problem. We still have a job problem. Why don't we if one governor would say, lead the legislature and say, we're getting ready to be the friendliest business state in the country, the people here would prosper. We would start adding jobs with our current businesses. It would keep some of our best and brightest, which would stop our migration. All of a sudden, companies from outside this state are going, man, what's happening in Louisiana? They are changing everything. We're moving up the list. Companies want to come here. We don't have to buy them. We've never tried what me and you are talking about. Since from Edwards to Edwards and everybody in between. I mean, you can find a few bright spots here and there, but basically we've done the same thing. We've grown government way more than the economy's grown, and we're suffering because of it.
Well, look, everybody says, Bernie and Moon have been doing this a long time, and we have. And we keep we keep saying the same thing over and over again.
But it's never
People
tried.
in charge,
It's never tried.
But the people in charge, they keep doing the same thing. As Einstein says, if you keep doing the same thing over and over and expect things to change, then they label it crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And, look, the legislature can do what it wants to do, but we run all these polls, and the public, look, Kennedy's the United States. Here's a good example. John Kennedy's the United States Senator today.
Yep.
How did he get there? He got there with a little flashy saying, Louisiana has a spending problem, not a revenue problem.
Yep.
And it propelled him in the United States Senate, and no one, including Edwards, ever topped him as far as who do you believe. They always believe John Kennedy.
Yep.
And it's not so much that they, you can argue that we need money for hospitals or we need money for this, but the public believes that we have enough money based on the government you're providing me. You're not providing me a government that I really like.
Yep, got it. Bernie Pinsonat. Hold on, Bernie. Got to take a quick break. More Bernie Pinsonat when we get back. You're listening to the Moon Griffon Show, folks. We'll be right back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has it hotline. Mr. Bernie Pinsonat. Of course, he's a pollster, and he's with us now, and he's been following this stuff, folks, probably a lot longer than me. Not because you're older, Bernie, just because you liked it probably more than me. Hey, yep. Bernie, by the way, people like Barry Ivey tweeting today defending the Democrats. Now, he's a Republican, and also people like, and I'm calling her Julie Nancy Pelosi Stokes. Miss Nancy Pelosi Stokes acts more like a liberal Democrat than she does some kind of Republican. But yet, these people are going to the podium last night, and they're basically popping Republicans. Of course, the press loves that. They love a John McCain in the State House.
Well, I hate to be the one to point this out to both of them. All the surveys I do when you ask about whether it's John Bel Edwards, even General to some extent, their voters back home, when you ask them to choose between spending and who do you trust, they trust the Republican voters back home trust their legislators, and if they want to go and vote against their constituents because they think they're smarter than their constituents, which is what they're saying, by the way, then have at it. But it's not going to help anything, and it's like you're trying to appease the Democrats, and really and truly, that's why we have two different parties. This is a state that, by the way, 18% of the I don't know, no Republicans voted for anyone but Trump, and of 82%. Yeah. Voted for 82% of all whites and independents, and except Democrats. 82% voted for Trump. So I don't know. This is a very red state, and I'm not taking sides. That's just what the numbers. When I talk, I'm talking about what I know about numbers. And Barry Ivey can do all the blasting of his fellow Republicans he wants, but go back home and tell people you want to vote for taxes, and I think government's great and Louisiana's doing wonderful.
Do you think, let me ask you a question, you think Barry Ivey and Julie Nancy Pelosi Stokes, do you really believe they ran on more taxes, increasing the government, and we need all these so-called services? You really think they ran on that, Bernie? I know they did, but do you think they really ran on that?
No,
I don't think so.
I know everything everything he ran on was pretty. He was going to be very pro-business. He was going to be. I'm sure he was anti-government, anti-taxes. That's what they all run on. But look, they're not important in the thing. Let me explain something to you. It doesn't matter what they say. You know why? Because they're not changing one iota of public opinion towards what they're saying. Mm-hmm. I got news for them. None. I'll run a poll tomorrow on statewide voters, and most of the people are saying, why are they even meeting? There's just not a consensus. There's no real plan that says this is going to make Louisiana better. I know they're dealing with revenue, but when you're dealing with revenue, I think it's, generally people, when you start telling them you want to take your tax money, what am I going to get out of it? One of the problems is, and it's any governor, they just don't have a plan to tell Louisiana how we're getting from point A to point B and make your life better, and for government to bring new jobs into Louisiana, to create an environment of business friendly. None of that's on the table during this session. Have you heard anyone talk about that?
Not
why would people want to pay more taxes?
Yeah, they don't, Bernie.
You know why there's so much malaise back home with all the voters? Because there's no encouragement from these legislators that this is going to make your life better. Your kids are not going to move to Texas, by the way. The road we want to tax.
Hey, Bernie, I got to take one more break. Hold on a second. I'll bring you back just for a few more minutes. Bernie Pinsonat when we get back. Hey, hello, welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. Bernie Pinsonat, my special guest. And Bernie has been a long-time pollster, not only in our state, but around the country. Hey, Bernie, can I jump gears with you just a few minutes?
Sure.
Did you see Elizabeth Criff had a story? There's a new poll, Mason-Dixon Polling and Research. Not trying to give them credit over you or anything, 625 registered voters. Had Edwards in the mid-50s, which means he's coming down. But when they compare him to Steve Scalise or John Kennedy, his numbers get down in the mid-40s. And what I'm amazed about, because that's where I think he's at, and that's where I think he'll stay. But it's amazing when you put a name around there, how quick his numbers falter.
Well, look. He's a Democrat in Louisiana, and this is a red state. It's, in fact, 10 years ago, one of the paper's reporters questioned or criticized, maybe it was 15 years ago, I said, no, Louisiana's not a red state. It's a fire engine color red state. And that was like 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I predicted that Mary would win, and then all of a sudden, I predicted 18 months before she ran that she would get beat. And the stuff out there right now in my survey was weighted towards blacks, related to being what's called a likely voters, but we weighted it back to represent the black population, Democrats and all. But that's not a picture of the voting Louisiana that I published. So that's about where it is. But if you look at Louisiana and you look at the voters and you look at their view of the legislature and they look at the view of who do you trust when it comes to spending, the vast majority of white voters in Louisiana say Republican. So this is a Republican state, and anybody who thinks it's not missed Donald Trump setting a world national galaxy of the biggest turnout in Louisiana, more votes and everything else. Now, Louisiana is all of a sudden going to be a Democratic state that favors a Democratic governor. Now, I don't know if he'll win or not, but he should max out at about 45, 46, 47%. That's where all Democrats max out.
That's right.
And that's why that's why he was elected by Vitter.
No, by the way, I ain't seen polls, but I've been around the game. I always thought 44, 45%. When you put another name, is that 44, 45%?
Well, that's what Mary, that's what Mary got. That's what they get.
Mary got 44, 45%, and the only reason Bell Edwards is at 56, Jay Darden and them knifed him, and you had people that bought into all the rhetoric. And by the way, those voters have watched and saw enough for 2 years, and I think they returned back home. That's my opinion. It's not based off a poll. It's just based off of that. One other thing I wanted you to talk about that I want people to understand, and I think you can hit this out the park, is one of the issues that nobody is figuring in this next governor's race is called redistricting. And everybody talks about how much money Bell Edwards already has and all that, but the fact of the matter is redistricting is going to play a big part in who we elect for governor, and Republicans are coming back and taking their seat back because they don't want a liberal Democrat heading up redistricting. How far off am I? Am I right? And talk about this.
Well, what's happened in Louisiana is you had a slight movement, and it's changing. You had a slight movement from white Democrats, sort of towards the middle, and then Trump passed the tax. But that was after 12 and 24 constant attacks on Republicans by national media. And the Republicans are all coming home to run the Republican Congress men, since we don't have a woman now. But there's nobody going to beat those people. There's nobody even talking about running against them who has a shot at them. This is a Louisiana state. And by the way, as you said, Louisiana is going to want Republicans elected in their district because that's what they favor. They don't like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And I'm not for or against anybody. That's what the numbers show. I'm talking as a pollster because no matter what you say about what I'm saying is what the numbers are. And it's not my preference. It is exactly what the numbers say every time I run a survey. And you can't overcome what the numbers say.
No, not at all. That's why I'm asking you about redistricting as being a gigantic issue.
It's because there's this talk about we need more moderate districts. Well, first of all, you'll get rid of about a third of the blacks minimum. But then this is all coming from out of state, by the way, George Soros and those organizations. It's amazing how Louisiana sitting meetings and these people from out of state telling us how we need to liberalize our legislature and it'll be better. Well, that's not going to sell with red state Louisiana Republicans. That's hogwash, and that's not going to happen. What they want is, as long as they're not illegal, they want the whitest districts that are more Republican because that's what lives in those districts. And so how else can I say it? Nobody runs as a Democrat and wins statewide. We had the exception, but is there anybody on the horizon who looks like they're going to win a congressional seat or a statewide office who's a Democrat?
Nope.
Name that person.
No, I'll tell you what you will have. You'll have somebody like Julie Stokes, who's Nancy Pelosi to me, run as a Republican that the Democrats can support. That's all you're going to see. They'll have a Democrat in a Republican clothing. Because let's just be honest, a lot of these Republicans that have become Republicans are still Democrats. They just can't win unless they're Republicans. And that's a problem. I have a problem with that.
Well, the problem is, okay, if the Democrats all sit still and say this is our candidate, then the Republicans in Louisiana and the independents in Louisiana, the conservatives in Louisiana, they can pretty well easily figure out who the Democrats are backing. Then whoever she faces in the runoff.
Yeah, but in case they can't, I'm gonna help them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All you have to do is label her, as somebody who loves taxes by her statements as of yesterday. She hates Republicans apparently. So yeah, that you think that the white conservative voters in Louisiana, red state voters, are going to vote for her based on if she supports raising taxes and she's supported by primarily Democrats and not Republicans. If she can get a lot of Republican votes, good luck, but that's what she would have to do eventually.
Yeah, well, we're hoping we'll stop that. All right, Bernie, it's always a pleasure. We'll do it again. By the way, last thing for you is your prediction. Do you have a prediction on this session? And if they don't get anything done next day or two, I don't know if they can do anything, but do you think Republicans ought to just call it quits and go home for this session?
Well, I don't know what the leadership will do. I think people are unhappy with the leadership and why they got in this position to start with. I mean, there's nobody. Look, let me make this clear. There's nobody back home in any Republican district that I poll in that's telling these people you need to go cut deals and raise more taxes on me. That's the first problem, and that's what they've run into. So, why would Republicans want to cave in to raising an income tax when they probably won't get reelected? So there's a lot of ifs about this session, but the basic foundation of the session is they continue to try to raise taxes and run into these problems because nobody has any confidence out there that this state's going to get better for their kids and for them to stay here? And is it business friendly? They want jobs, and that's the number one issue in all states is what? Jobs.
Yeah, good point.
And is anyone fixing that? No, kids are still leaving Louisiana. They graduate from LSU, McNeese, or wherever, and what do? They leave. Yep. And people aren't stupid anymore. They don't believe state government is fixing the problem, which is we need jobs.
Yeah, by the way, I'll let you go on this. Robert Adley, who voted for all of Ada Jindal's budgets, was out there telling people he knew of a company in Texas that wanted to move here, but because of the instability of government, they're not moving here. And I thought, oh, my God. I mean, but by the way, he wouldn't name the company. Just throw that out there because government has to have the stability, which is a bunch of bunk. Bernie Pinsonat, always a pleasure. What's that?
Exxon didn't come here for that. Everybody knows why Exxon didn't come to Louisiana. It's because of the anti-friendly business climate. I got news for him.
Yep, lawsuit. But you can't tell Robert Alley the grass is green. He wouldn't get it. Got to go, Bernie. Thank you. Appreciate the call. We'll do it again. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. That's right, Brandon. Brandon's over there laughing. If I went out there and showed Robert Alley that grass was green, it wouldn't matter to him. He'd tell you it's blue and pink or something, and then try to convince you he was right. That's how wrong Adley is. Wow. But he did enrich himself. Congratulations, Robert, when you got back in the Senate. We'll take a break. Be right back.